discussing because there is no change in the IRAC norms. IRAC norms, the income recognition and asset classification norms remain the same. We just discussed that briefly. We also discuss about what are the new changes which have come in terms of reporting. We'll also look at what are the new circulars which have been issued by the RBI. We'll also look at the Supreme Court, briefly look at what the Supreme Court has said, and then we try to analyze as to where the banks are and what is expected of the others. So I hope to take about an hour or so to complete the deliberations. I have a fairly exhaustive presentation. Some of the slides I'll be skipping, but that presentation will be made available to you. So if we so we'll just take a look at where we are as far as banking is concerned. As I mentioned, what are the regulators saying? What are the statements which are coming out? Some of the key changes this year as far as bank audit is concerned. Briefly touch upon the IRAC norms which I mentioned. There is not much change, but looking at the key issues which we will revisit. Some reference to the relevant RBI circulars, as I mentioned, the number of circulars which came out. Okay, thank you. Then detail about the COVID-19 related circulars, MSME restructuring, a little bit revisit again. LFR, I know Anshuji is taking, so I will not spend time, just give a brief background. Just give you the context in which the new LFR is coming in. Some audit reporting requirements, and time permitting, we just look at the preparation, anything different which we need to do in this year. So, before I start, just want you to look at this quote from our first president of the institute, Mr. G.P. Kapadia, who was also the first chartered accountant. And he talks about social purpose and social obligation, but he also talks about who is a chartered accountant. Person whom every member of society would like and rely strongly. His certificate would be one by way of a seal and a hallmark of which would inspire confidence in the minds of all concerned, as certificates by a person fully competent and holding a charter from the supreme legislature of the country for the purpose. So it's good to revisit these, and Nandaji is here, and I'm sure in the council, they deliberate many times about this, but it's always good to reflect on what is our expectation today. And when I go through the expectation of the regulator, and we try to see what is expected of us, especially in this very, very uncertain and unusual time. So although I would request if you can take questions towards the end, but if you have any pressing issue, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll be happy to address that. So the economic survey, I was telling you, let's hear what is being said. So economic survey is a document of the government, and they have referred to forbearance, and the language which they have used is beautiful. They have said forbearance represents emergency medicine to be discontinued at the first opportunity when the economy exhibits recovery, not a staple diet that gets continued for years. Now, and they've gone back into saying that in the 2008 financial crisis, the RBI had come out with various relaxations, and those continued, and banks continued to lend. And what happened was that you had a huge increase in NPAs because there was unhindered lending, and the norms which had been prescribed, the stringent norm, kept getting extended. So essentially what they are saying is, and if you look at the last, so they have talked about how NPAs increased from 4.3% in 2014-15 to 11.2% in 17-18, and this is important because you will see what they are saying for the future. And so what is actually being talked is that in the last year, as we were discussed, there were a lot of relaxations. There was a moratorium, the restructuring, there's liquidity, everything is there. But it's okay for this time being because the borrowers, you don't classify the accounts as non-performing asset. But what happens when that forbearance is withdrawn? So we need to be aware of that. We also need to understand in what situation the banks and the borrowers will be as once the situation changes. The financial stability report also talks and they talk about the future. They are saying under baseline scenario, the NPAs would increase to a 22-year high of 13.5%, is a gross NPA, and from 7.5% in September 20. So this is a worrisome. So what they are saying is that right now, fine, you have relaxations, but this is the and RBI is obviously collecting data from various banks, looking at where stress is, and they are telling banks to keep on providing more and more in that regard, even if the accounts are not classified as NPA. Similar comments by the RBI governor, deepened supervision, they are going to do a deep dive. So, what is the context? The context is that yes, we are doing audits every year, RBI guidelines are there, institute guidance note, everything is there. We are looking for signs of stress, we are looking for signs where there would be risk. And that is what we need to be aware of at the time when we are conducting the audit. So you've got to understand which are those industries which are under stress. There are hospitality, there's retail, there's so many of them. And are the accounts, so the accounting has to reflect the economic reality. Is that being reflected? Is there a way in which the situation is not as it really appears to be? Because tomorrow when the RBI goes into a deep dive, they should not come across any surprise. So I think that is the context which we need to really understand. So as I mentioned, there were a lot of relaxations, there were RBI circulars which extended benefits to borrowers. There's an interim order of the Honorable Supreme Court which is continued from September onwards. We discussed that. And there are there are additional reporting requirements also which came in for last year in 2020, which continues today. And there is a new reporting requirement for internal controls on financial reporting. Now, as branch auditors, you might feel that there is no requirement for the branch auditors, but no, there will be a requirement for branch auditors also to report. This matter had been debated earlier, but there will be a requirement, so we'll quickly discuss that. There is also a new LFR. The LFR after 18 years has been totally overhauled. It's more detailed. You have to really now look at do a lot of work. So they've talked about not only advances which are the large advances definition has undergone a change, but they've talked about a system and a transaction review, and you will have to take out a sample of other than large advances also. You will have to put in all that data, you have to share which are the advances you've done, what is the sample you looked at. You've got to look at even situation like how drawing power has been computed, what is whether stock statements are being received properly, shortfall in value of security, credit rating, interest correctly fed in and all. So these are some of the things where they are looking at auditors really to add a lot of value, spend much more qualitative time, and also communicate what is the data which you have seen, and communicate very clearly. Communicate very clearly for signs of stress. So now there is no ambiguity. We cannot say that this is something which we had done without actually giving a reference. You've got to clearly indicate that okay, these were the large advances, and they've also asked you to report on adverse features in top 5 standard accounts. So this is the expectation of the regulator, which we really need to understand, and we need to build it and dovetail that into our audit program and audit working. So we need to spend more time. It's always good to do a preliminary review of the branch, whichever you're doing. LFR, to my mind, will take longer time this time, and Dalmia can talk about that. So please space out your time for looking at the work accordingly. So this I mentioned last year there was a circular with regard to additional reporting requirements, and in that is also one is ICOFR, which is Internal Controls on Financial Reporting, which we will discuss in a little bit more detail. So internal controls on financial reporting is a requirement which was there for companies, also for listed companies, wherein earlier the directors or the board needs to comment on internal financial controls, and the auditors also needed to comment on that. This was not there earlier for public sector banks. So essentially what is being asked is to review the process and controls of the bank. I'm looking, if you look at the bank as a whole, what is the credit process, what is the lending process, how is the accounting and financial, how are the numbers coming in. As for those of you who carry out internal audits or carry out audits of companies where ICOFR has to be reported on, you have to look at a risk control matrix, look at what are the risks and how the controls are. For instance, a simple case would be, let's say, a monitoring. So there is operational and financial controls. There are a lot of returns which are being certified by you at the branch level. So let us say there is a capital adequacy return. Now that capital adequacy return, if you are looking at the branch level, how does the data flow? Who is the maker? Who is the checker? And whether that has been done or not. Supposing there is an NPA return which has to go, that who is made, who is checked in, how does the data flow in, what are the control points? All that will have to be reported by the auditors and also the branch auditors. The good part is that the central statutory auditors are required to do a full review of the bank and communicate to the branch auditors that these are the area and these are the controls which you need to check. So that is what is as far as internal controls on financial reporting. I will also add that the term which you will hear time and again is internal